Paltrocast now with Darren Paltrowitz. Get ready to listen to your favorite artists. The Paltrocast is starting real soon. New interviews, no auto-tune. The Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now. It's the Paltrocast now.
Paltrocast.
Thank you to Steve Schiltz for that great theme song, and thank you for checking out the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz. On this 44th episode of the Paltrocast, I spoke with three entertainers who are doing very interesting things: Bruce Kulick, Anna Sofia, and Mickie James. First up is my interview with Bruce Kulick. Some people call him Bruce Kulick. However you say his name, no one can doubt that he is one of the top guitarists out there of the last few decades. Bruce is one of those people that 50 people might know from 50 different things. He was in the band Kiss for 12 years. He's been in Grand Funk Railroad for 20 years. Before all that, he played with Michael Bolton, Meatloaf, The Good Rats, a whole bunch of great people. He's even been sampled by some hip-hop artists. That's something that we spoke about in our chat. In general, we spoke about Grand Funk, his long-term career, and what he's got going on. There may be a book from him from the near future. But the bottom line is, Bruce is a hell of a nice guy, and he always has something going on. Hi, Bruce.
Hi, Darren.
Hey, how's it going there?
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you for calling right on time. And I have a lot to ask you, but I'll keep it as short as I can. So you've got the upcoming tour with Grand Funk Railroad, and I believe you've now been in the band for 20 years. When you joined, did you know that it was going to be a full-time, long-term thing?
Well, you always hope when you get involved in a situation like, sometimes I jokingly call it Grand Funk Point 2, 2-0, it's that kind of thing, that it has, the longevity. The fact that it out surpassed, and it's gone into the 20th year. And I mean, even my run in Kiss, which was 12 years, I consider to be huge because so many bands just don't last very long. So in many ways, it's an amazing feat, and in other ways, it totally makes sense because we do all get along and we do all respect each other and the music that we play and the fact that we're able to make people happy and play our instruments, which all musicians love to have the opportunity to do. That I guess is the fuel that keeps it going. And the most important, of course, is that these venues that we get booked at, we wind up going back many times, and that's obviously a testament to the success of it.
And of course, Grand Funk is one of the most influential rock bands of all time. But before joining the band, how many of the songs did you already know how to play?
I didn't really know the actual songs in the sense of playing them, though I was very familiar with a bit of that catalog. I wouldn't say all of the catalog, but there was a couple of things that were always standout tracks. I mean, I've even covered with some of my musician friends, American Band and Closer to Home. Inside Looking Out was a song, though, that was remarkably fascinating for me, that I remember seeing, and I don't know what show it was, but there was a live performance out there that I was just like, oh, these guys are amazing. I was just so into it. And I have to admit, even though I met Don Brewer on the Seeger tour when I was working with Michael Bolton and we opened up for Seeger, and that's kind of how I got on the short list. And I'd seen Don Brewer at a NAMM show, we'd say hi. But when I got that initial call, I was kind of like, wow, this is wild, the opportunity to play guitar with Grand Funk, it was kind of head spinning in a way, I originally even thought it was a prank email when I saw the email from him, but it wasn't. Obviously.
Well, anytime somebody's been in a band for a really long time, of course, there's endless sound checks before the performances and, of course, rehearsals beyond that. And you're somebody who's a multi-instrumentalist. I'm curious, in a dire situation, could you fill in on keyboards or play the whole show on bass?
Keyboards, no, definitely not. I do love bass, and I've played bass on my solo stuff, and I've professionally recorded even with Kiss bass parts and all. So, I definitely, I wouldn't say that I would do it, but I'm just saying I think I would be able to maybe do the bass, but I'd be sweating.
Very, very
Yeah,
modest
I mean,
answer right there.
Mel is a monster, and he has some really creative parts. And it's funny. It's funny that you mention it because one of the songs that I remember doing with my buddy Eric Singer was "Closer to Home," and I was the bass player for that track when we were jamming one time at this pretty cool club in L.A. So maybe I could pull it off on bass, but I wouldn't want to.
Well, going back even before Kiss, and I believe before Michael Bolton, you were part of the Good Rats, which is kind of a legendary Long Island institution. Did you spend a lot of time on Long Island growing up or in your early days as a musician?
Well, I started out in Brooklyn, but I was around, I guess it was around 13 or so, I moved to Queens. So, obviously you're a Long Island guy, you know that Queens is connected, I mean? So
Right.
there were many things connected to Long Island, not always really far in Suffolk, but Nassau County. My dad actually worked at a plant off of in Jericho or something like that in Westbury. I think the street was called something with Jericho, but I did know quite a bit of, and I had some friends that lived on Long Island. Now, obviously, when I played with the Good Rats for 2 years, we would play like just about everywhere in Long Island, including New Jersey and stuff like that, the tri-state area. But even my Meatloaf days, you had to play my father's place out in Roslyn, right? There's that connection to Long Island. It's a good music community related to New York, but not like Manhattan. That's all.
Right, right.
Nothing like Manhattan, actually. Yeah, suburbia.
Do you still consider yourself a New Yorker given your roots?
Yeah, I do. It comes out like when I'm there, like for even like a day or two, I start talking more East Coast New York. But I moved out to LA, during within a few years of being in Kiss. And so that would have been the mid 80s that I lived out on the West Coast. So, and it's funny how you lose a little bit of that, accent, but I think I'm always a New Yorker at heart. Absolutely.
And speaking of New Yorkers, not everybody realizes that you had a song that was sampled by Jay-Z. Did that change your life in any way, given that brings in a little bit of publishing money and all that? And I ask that because Billy Squier, his life changed through hip-hop samples.
Right. Actually, it's funny you mention it because it is on Wikipedia and it's out there. But the Jay-Z thing has never been handled, okay? In other words, I've been sampled but never been paid for, okay? And Michael Bolton and I know that. It's not an easy thing to correct, okay, at this point, and I'd rather not say any more about it. But I will admit that Kanye West covered also a song from Michael and I from The College Dropout that was properly licensed or approached, and we're songwriters on the College Dropout album on one of the tracks that I did make money from. So it's kind of funny. I mean, it's been out there quite a while, and you're the first person to ask. So yeah, how about that? Song with Jay-Z, and it's like it's an unfortunate little issue that I don't really know how to exactly handle it. Okay. It's not as easy as you think when you want to say, hey, what about me? You know what I mean? I don't know what to say more than that at this point.
Apologies for the sore subject. And when I interviewed Gene about 2 years ago, I asked about Funky Cold Medina that had kind of sampled Christine 16. Any idea where it is that hip-hop producers are kind of finding these deep cuts from you and Michael Bolton and Kiss and etc.? Is it people like Rick Rubin that are just have these records?
Well, we know that Kanye knew about the Blackjack albums, and the second one in particular was like pretty not well known at all. So I think it's a fun thing for them to explore and then recognize that, hey, this little part from a Leslie West Mountain song or whatever, or Billy Squier, or from something from my career fits, and obviously the Kiss sample is pretty cool.
Right. And on the Kiss end, you were going to be on the Kiss cruise this next year, which is already sold out. Is it enjoyable at all to be on the Kiss cruise, or do you kind of have to hide away because there's a lot of photo ops and a lot to do?
Well, and it's a great question. I look, I don't really hide. I'm very cool with the fans. Everyone's pretty respectful. Obviously, there's sometimes when it's just like, if I want to eat, there's actually a dining room for the artists, so you're not really disturbed. But, sometimes I want to go up to the buffet where all the fans are, and it could get a little crazy. But the fans are really wonderful on the cruise. It truly is like Disneyland for Kiss, and the cruises are so, Kiss fans in general are really, they have a good time, but nobody gets crazy, and there's no fights on the cruise, and everyone's like really supportive, and they understand that, I need to get from one place to the other. So, please respect that. So, I don't really have any bad taste in my mouth about that. They're all really great with me.
And at this point in your career, people think of you as a real member of Kiss, and I say that because I believe you're the longest tenured member besides the original four. And you look at
actually, Eric and Tommy are really tacking on a lot of years there. Okay, but I had that solid 12 in a row. Okay, where Eric, Tommy might be in there already over 12 years, believe it or not. But either way, your point about me being a member in a sense, where even though I haven't been active with them since '96 officially, I do feel that. I do, even though I'm part of the extended family, I would say.
Where I was going with that is an album like Carnival of Souls, your DNA is all over that. You, I believe, sang lead on the song besides playing bass and co-wrote a lot of the album. Is that an album that you're proud of?
Well, I am. I know. The funny thing I always say about the record, because I know Paul was never a big fan of it, but we wanted to do a darker and heavier album than Revenge. It's where the music scene was kind of heading, and they decided to work with a guy who worked with Alice in Chains, Toby Wright, who certainly had his vision for what we could sound like, and I got busy. So if you love the record, that's fine. You can be happy with my contribution. And if you don't like the record, don't blame me, because that was like kind of the direction that the band chose. And, the band doesn't go to places that Gene and Paul aren't willing to explore. Okay. It's, Eric Singer and myself don't make those decisions. And just like Tommy and Eric don't make any of those decisions even currently, but I, there is some really interesting material on that record, and I am proud of it. And I especially think the work that I put into I Walk Alone really stands up now. I know I did it on the last year's cruise, and it went over really well. So I was very, very excited about that.
One last Kiss question, then we'll bring it back to you, and that's,
sure.
You were in Kiss when there was an all-Jewish lineup of the band. Was that something that ever came up that you guys sat around and thought, hey, Rosh Hashanah's coming up?
Well, that's not really correct, because there's no Jewish drummer in the band, and Eric is kind of has a German name, his actual name, but he's not Jewish. So, but three of the band members were Jewish. No, but it is kind of funny that Paul and Gene and I, we do get that heritage thing, and there are certain things about it. Gene being a little different, being half Israeli and Hungarian, where Paul's parents and his heritage is closer to my parents. But it really always just comes down to work ethic and music and the love of what you do. And those guys are extremely successful. And there's a lot of really talented Jewish doctors, so I see them as kind of like doctors of music. You know what I mean? I was happy to be around them and see how hard they work and how they apply their brains to something so successful as a band like Kiss.
So back to you. We've mentioned a lot of names besides Kiss, besides Grand Funk, besides Michael Bolton. You mentioned Meatloaf and all that. You've really spent 40-ish years working with the greatest of the greats, and by default, you had a lot of songwriting co-writes and so forth. Is there a career accomplishment that you're proud of in general?
I do love it when someone reminds me, like you just did, of all the great opportunities that I've been associated with, and I know that I'm very, very blessed with a long career where, through my guitar playing primarily, even though I sometimes contribute as a songwriter or co-writer, I was able to sustain a career and be out there and be active. And even during these Grand Funk years, I always still keep that connection with my Kiss years and other people, for sessions and things. But, I know the highlight of my career has always been being a member of Kiss. But when I think about the fact that I had the opportunity to tour with Meatloaf and do an album with Billy Squier and work with someone like Michael Bolton, who's is still out there performing and successful, and now, of course, all these years of touring with Grand Funk, it does blow my mind a bit. But each day and each week and each month and year is always setting up events that you're comfortable with, that you feel you can be successful with, and keep moving the career forward. And that's a challenge. So when you're on the day-to-day, you don't always reflect over some larger picture. But thanks for reminding me.
And any chance we might see a book or a memoir from you in the future?
I did work a bit years ago with a guy in the industry on a book, and we did have quite a few chapters together. And then I saw all the people putting out books, and most of them were pretty harsh on other band members and things like that. But it's the way they wanted to share their experience. I do want to do a book. I think a lot of it will be much more about the process of not only, my career, excuse me, but I think it would be related as well to the process of all the things that I've done. Talk about that video or that album, what it was like doing it, and why I felt it was successful or not, So I may have a little different approach rather than just complaining about some of the disappointments. So it wouldn't be a negative book, is what I guess I'm trying to say. But I do want to do that. Yes.
Well, definitely hoping to read that in the near future. So finally, Bruce, any last words for the kids?
Well, the kids, most of my fans are older than that, but I do have a lot of kid fans. Obviously, I'm on social media. I do like sharing, what I'm up to and places I've been. Like I just saw the, Aerosmith in concert, so I shared some video and a little review that I put up. But I like getting the feedback from fans. So, and I have a brucekulick.com's my website, and then social media. It's pretty easy to find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm all there, and you see the little blue check or whatever, it is me. Okay. Fortunately, I'm verified on those three. And of course, please come and check out Grand Funk. I think, the people that aren't that familiar with every hit from the band are still going to love the show. And I get featured quite a bit. So if you're really just wanting to hear my lead guitar playing, almost every song I have a ripping solo. So come on out and party with the American band.
Paltrocast.
My next interview is with Anna Sofia, just 16 years old, already has a major label record deal. I don't know about you, I didn't have a major label record deal when I was in high school, and still don't at 38 years of age, but her new EP is called Self-Aware Bitch. Some people are calling the genre bedroom pop. Whatever it is, she had over 1 million streams before she signed her major label record deal, so clearly she got her start early and is on the right track. We spoke about that new EP, what's coming up for her, whether or not she's going to be going to college, or as they call it in Canada, university, and socks. Hope you enjoy.
Hey,
Hi,
Darren.
Anna. How's it going there today?
Good. How are you?
Great. So I want to get to it and talk about your new EP. And it has a really iconic opening line to it.
I only want a few close friends.
Yeah. Did you know that you were making such a bold statement with an opening line like that?
I guess. Kinda.
Well, hearing your music, people kind of call it bedroom pop. And when you hear that, it's lo-fi, but it's actually really well produced. But in your case, does the music come first, or do the lyrics usually come first?
First is the concept, and then the music, and then the lyrics.
Got it. Now, of the new EP, which of the songs is written first?
So, first one we ever wrote was I Try. And then we had Meaner Girl, No Fun. I think after that, it was Bad Day. or Waste My Time With You. I forget. I just know that I Try was my very first song that I wrote. And I was very sick that day.
Well, around how many songs did you write for this EP?
Well, the EP was basically my first experience with writing. So I had a lot to say. And that resulted in every single song we wrote, we used, which was pretty amazing. I think we only dropped one. And so I felt pretty accomplished with that because we worked really, really hard on each song. So it was good to see that they were written and like we like really, really liked them. Like we didn't know if we would really, really like anything that I wrote at the beginning, and then we ended up like really liking everything. So that was a very good sign. And I realized that I was working with good people, and I had a really amazing team around me when we wrote music that we all loved.
And you're known to be a multi-instrumentalist, but did you play most of the instruments on this album? EP, rather?
I did not. I did a lot of basically I'm involved in every single aspect, but I was always, whenever we were in the studio, I was focusing on lyrics, song melody, vocal melodies, and some of the production. So I was very focused, and I was kind of in my own little world because I had to think of the concepts and nail down the melodies and get some ideas for the lyrics. So that was always my job, while everyone else kind of had their own little thing. And then after, I would come around and see what we should keep in or take out or use this, don't use that. So yeah, I was always in my own little world, focusing on the lyrics and everything else.
It can be sort of a drag as an artist when you have to answer the who are your influences question, but who was the first artist that you were really passionate about that kind of inspired you to start being a creative force yourself?
If I'm going back to like the people who made me want to do this, it was Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber and Demi Lovato. I watched a lot of movies and from Demi Lovato, and my favorite show had Selena Gomez in it. And I love Justin Bieber. So they kind of influenced me to do or pursue a career in the music business. And my writing influences were probably Rex Orange County or Elton John, Tyler, the Creator, Queen, Billie Eilish, people like that.
All over the place. Any punk influences?
Yes, I am all over the place. Not really, no.
And really no metal either, it sounds like.
No, I don't really love listening to that. Maybe if I spent more time listening to it, I would like it, but I don't usually listen to that music.
But lyrically, as I was talking about, very, very strong lyrics on this EP. And you said that the concepts come first. Is it that you think of a title and then work around it?
I usually come into the studio with a story to tell, whether it's like if I had a bad day at school, which is basically how Bad Day came about, or if there was a problem that I had. Basically everything that I write about right now is about high school. So this will all relate to anything that happens at school. And then I come in and tell them a story. I'm like, you know what? I really want to write about this story. And then, so that's when we get the concept. And then the title comes at the very, very end. Like, we don't even know the title until like way, way later. Usually it'll come out as a song, but we never usually think of the title until the end.
How's the reaction been in your high school to the fact that you have a big EP coming out? Or rather, that just came out but was a long time in the works?
It was actually really amazing to see how many people supported me. I have a lot of good friends at school, and everyone's so supportive. They've been playing my music, they've been sharing it, and I hear it at a lot of our school parties or whatever, whenever we hang out. So it's been amazing because a lot of people have shared it and posted. So they're all super supportive, and I knew they would be from day one.
Usually when you have a big release, you're kind of thinking 1, 2, 3 years down the line with touring and promotional appearances. Do you have to defer college in order to promote the EP and all that?
Well, like college, like school college?
Yes, sorry, the American term university, college, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Yes, I do, probably. Right now, I have a different kind of school routine. I have 3 courses homeschooled and then 1 class at school. It's very difficult to keep up when you're missing a lot. I miss like probably 2 or 3 days of school a week. So it is definitely difficult. I do want to pursue a career in entertainment law eventually. So that's what I'm hoping to go to school for. So I'd want to eventually, after the music, once it starts to die down, I'd like to go back to school and check out entertainment law.
Wow, that's big aspirations right there. But in the meantime, do you hope to tour the world and do a lot of touring in general, or do you more hope to be a home recording artist?
I hope to do a lot of tours. I have been performing my whole life. I play piano, and I used to be a competitive dancer, and I used to do competitive singing, whatever, things like that. And so that was a lot of performing. And I also used to just perform at little venues, like community venues or even just restaurants that had open mics. So I've always loved to perform, whether it was dance, piano, singing, anything. So I hope to get back out once I have a bigger library of music out and then start to tour.
And are you already thinking about a full-length album or a follow-up EP, or is it really one project at a time for you?
I usually enjoy releasing EPs. In my opinion, when I listen to a full-length album, it's a lot to take in, and I usually tend to forget what song I like. And being the artist that writes this album, it kind of sucks when your favorite song kind of gets overshadowed by the bigger songs on your album. Whereas when you have an EP, there's only a minimal amount of songs, so you kind of have to listen to all of them, and you can't really forget which one you like because there's only like 6 or 8 songs. So I usually like that because I realize that every single song gets a good amount of attention, and there's fans that are more geared towards one song, and then there's the fans that like the other song better. So every single song has like their fans, and which I like a lot, because a full-length album, some of your favorite songs can get lost.
And totally aside from all that, you have a great name on Instagram. Can you say it out loud, because it's going to sound terrible if I say it?
It's Mismatched Socks Yo. And that's just because I can never find the same socks in my sock drawer. My parents always take my socks for some reason. It's like I'm the sock dealer of the house. So that's literally the only reason why. There are days where I do have the same socks on, and that is because it's a lucky day and I found the same socks. But usually I can never find the same socks, so I'm always struggling. So that's why I named myself Mismatched Socks.
That is great. Could we one day see a line of socks coming from you?
100%. Actually, someone made socks with my face on them, and I literally already lost the other sock to that one. And probably one of my mom or my dad has it. But yes, 100%. I'm dying to start merchandise and definitely make some funky socks, because I love wearing funky socks myself.
And hopefully that's the only thing you lose. You don't lose equipment or anything like that?
No, just my socks.
Great. You've given me so much to work with, so I'm going to ask the closing question, and that's any last words for the kids?
Well, that's a tricky one. Follow your dreams. Don't really listen to what other people think. That's basically what my whole EP is about, being a self-aware bitch. You kind of just got to go with the flow, do your own thing, don't let anybody change you. And I've definitely showed that in my music video. The whole idea was to kind of expose the fake people in life who aren't here to support you, and they just want to change you, and they want to make you someone who you aren't. And that's a big thing for me, is don't change for anybody, and let people know that you are you and that you can't be changed.
Paltrocast.
Last, but definitely not least, is my interview with Mickie James. For over 20 years now, Mickie has been one of the top female wrestlers in the world. I think she's a 7 or 8-time world champion. Whatever it is, she's also a singer, songwriter, and musician. For the past decade or so, she's been recording and putting out music beyond touring. So in turn, you have this award-winning wrestler and award-winning musician who puts herself out there and is always grinding while being a mother and devoted wife and all that kind of stuff. We touched on that within our phone chat, and I think this is a very unique look at somebody who's excelling in 2 different entertainment-oriented fields.
Hello.
Hey, it's Darren. How's it going there?
Good. How are you, Darren?
Great. Thank you very much. So I saw that you played the Seneca Hotel upstate New York a couple of weeks back. Maybe it's a month and a half back. And for those who didn't get to see you live, what's a Mickie James live show like?
It's exciting. We have so much fun with it. Like, we build out our shows to really just be, a good range of like my songs, the songs that I wrote and the songs that I play. However, it's like a party. It's fun. I like to say that our style is very like country Southern rock kind of thing. So it's definitely like a blended kind of show. But it's just, we had such a good time. And I'd been up at Seneca Casino a couple weeks prior for the Native American Music Awards, and then came back like 2 weeks later for that show. So it was the first time I had performed as an artist there, and it was just amazing. And we had such a great crowd, and it was just fun. And we like to have fun at our shows, so if you can't have a good time out there, there's no sense in doing it.
Right. Now, a lot of people learned about your singing abilities probably from the hardcore country theme song that you did. But when did you want to become a singer versus pursuing a wrestling career?
I think I wanted to be both as a child, like as a kid, you know how when you have all these dreams and aspirations as a child, and you're like, oh, I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. And like wrestling was my thing with my dad, and that was our bonding thing. And it was just ironic kind of how I fell into it after high school. However, I grew up riding horses, and that's honestly what I thought I was going to be doing with my whole life, because even though I wanted to sing, I wasn't confident enough in myself or even thought I had the ability to be a singer. I would record myself and I would say, you know what I mean? And I would practice and I would do chorus or like choir at church and stuff like that. But I just wasn't super confident in myself, and especially not confident enough to stand up on stage and make myself so vulnerable, and it wasn't until I was on the road full time with wrestling that I went back to my, I played violin for 5 years in school and all that stuff, that I kind of really started going back more to my music roots. And I, really assessed that to the fact that I was on the road 200 days out of the year, at least, sometimes more. And a lot of that time was spent in my car listening to the radio. And I found that I've always written, just ideas, thoughts, whatever. And I felt like I was starting to write more in a lyrical sort of form, and I'm singing, obviously singing along and everything. And then I started to realize I was writing to, not just in a lyrical form, but to melodies that were on the radio and stuff like that. And I just started writing songs, and I started writing, or what I thought were songs. And out of that, I decided, this is the one thing that I always wanted to do as a kid. And I was just completely fearful and just self-doubt and all these things that fear brings in. And I was like, I'm just going to go take these songs to Nashville and cut them, or at least cut the best ones. Like if it's only 2 of them, it's fine. If it ends up as a coaster on my mom's coffee table, it's fine. But at least I did. I don't want to have that look back at my life and go like, why didn't I ever do that? Like it was only because I was scared. And you know what I mean? And so I did, and I came, and that was about 2008 that I brought these, a collection of stuff that I wrote down. And in that, I've met so many people. I met producers, and I just met a bunch of people, and it was Kent Wells, he plays guitar with Dolly Parton, who was also the producer on my first album, who was the one who I think out of meeting with all these different, and I mean, I was meeting with all like big producers and stuff, as well as, just Nashville producers. And he was the one that believed in me, or like really made me believe in myself, I think. And he is like, Mickie, you have these great songs, and these are great. He goes, I want to put you with songwriters. I want to get you, strengthen your songwriting ability, because I think that you genuinely have talent. He goes, but you also have a unique sound that doesn't sound like anyone in Nashville right now. And you have such a unique story and background. He goes, I would really, rather than just cut these couple songs for you as more of just like a vanity project for you, is I would rather take you in and really try to hone and find, so you can start finding yourself in this if it's something that you're serious about. And through that process of building my first album with him, I really started to believe in myself a bit more. And then we released that first album. It just got such, it was only like my 3 of the songs that I wrote on it. And we got songs from different songwriters and publishing companies. And, but out of that, I met with a bunch of different songwriters as well to continue to keep writing. And that was in 2010 that I put my first album out. And I'm so grateful for him, because I don't think that had he given me that courage or that belief in myself, that I was capable of doing that. And it was, obviously capable of more than just putting out an album of songs that I wrote for myself, that I would have explored it as much as I have, because obviously I fell in love with the business, and I love music so much. I just feel like for me, it just creates a balance from coming, of spending, the last 20 some years of my life in this aggro male dominated, aggression built industry to release a softer side of me that people don't often know, or like the other side of me who makes up the real Mickie James, because I go by on television my real name, which is a rarity in the wrestling business anymore. Like, people use pseudonyms. So when they go home, they can turn off their character and be who they are, their real name in real life. Well, I don't have that luxury. Like, it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it? I'm so grateful for it. But at the same time, you meet me in the street, it's still Mickie James. So people have trouble, like, differentiating the balance between television personality and real life. Like, they think I'm just that person all the time, good guy, bad guy, indifferent, rather than. So I just feel like this allows me to just have this creative outlet to release all these thoughts and emotions and life stories of both myself and my friends to the universe and to the people out there who actually want to hear it. And it's just amazing for me. It's therapeutic, and I love it so much. And now here I am going on 4 albums almost later. So we've 2 full albums and a bunch of singles, and we're getting ready to release an EP. And then I have hopefully later this year, I'm putting out an album of all originals, all stuff that I've written, which will be a first time I've done that. So I'm really excited about that.
Going back to something you said, if you don't mind here, that kind of singing along to the radio and all that instilled that confidence in you. Was there not a phase in your life where you sang in high school talent shows and you had a garage band or anything like that?
No, I never had a garage band. We lived in the country. We didn't have garages. We had sheds. But I just sang, like, I did choir in school, like, but more as an elective. I played the violin for 5 years. I played both through, 2 years in middle school and 3 years all the way up until about my junior year in high school. I played, the violin. But I never sang in chorus. And obviously we would put on, as a younger child, they make you do those plays, don't you? You did Mary Poppins and we did all that stuff. But no, I did chorus in school, and I would do choir, in church, but not full time, because it just, I showed horses. Like, that's what we did. We trained and showed horses. So most of my weekends were consumed with the farm and riding and breaking and training these horses to get them ready for the show ring. I mean, I sang in my car. I would sing on these. I'm going to date myself right now, but like, on the A side, B side with the microphone plugged into your radio, like, recorded myself singing.
That's not at all dating yourself, believe me. But going back to another thing you said, you described your band as, a country and southern rock influenced kind of band. And that could, of course, mean a lot of different things, whether you're talking about Marshall Tucker or you're talking about Bret Michaels or what it is. But what were the bands in the first place that really got you singing? Did you start off with the hard rock path like a Zeppelin thing, or is it country was your gateway?
No, I would say country and pop at the time, because and a lot of like R&B and old soul. That would probably be when growing up, like my father, he listened to more R&B and soul and that kind of stuff, like Aretha Franklin and, Otis Redding and Percy Sledge. That's his jam. And my mom was more on the Prince and Madonna and that whole pop era of that, that kind of vein. She listened to all that stuff, whereas my stepfather was actually who introduced me to country, because he really that's all he listened to was Waylon and Willie and, just that old outlaw type of stuff. And so I grew up with such a vast, and then obviously when I was growing up, there was it was pop, it was, Snoop Dogg, it was all these different variations. So, and then playing the violin, I listened, we played all classical. It was all Mozart and Beethoven and all these, crescendos, number 5 and all that stuff. So it was just I grew up with such a vast range of music. But I think what resonated with me the most is it would be between the Deanna Carters and Reba McEntire's and Tim McGraw, who was my favorite, and then still probably my favorite. Honestly, I love him. I'm obsessed with him. Him and Reba are my favorites of all time, and Dolly, obviously. But I think that I just kind of pulled in all those sections. My music, if anything, is more about storytelling and telling stories, and I feel like that's kind of where I gravitate, is how do you tell a magical story to music, you know what I mean? And where people can hear it and understand it and follow it and feel it.
So going back to another thing you said.
I love a good amount of Guns N' Roses, and I like all that stuff too. But Leonard Skinner, I like all music. I really do. I'm just obsessed.
Right, and going back to what you said of having 2 full-length albums and EPs and singles and so forth, it is a real career, especially when you're getting bookings like the Seneca, which has real artists like Alice Cooper and all that playing all the time. Looking ahead, do you eventually want to be on the road 50 dates a year? I know with wrestling it was 200 plus dates a year, which is not scalable, but do you want to be on the road 50 dates a year, something like that?
I would love to. Yeah. I think I've become so accustomed to being on the road doesn't scare me. I actually love it. I enjoy it. I find my comfort in it because that's how I've lived my life for the last 20 years, is out of a suitcase and on the road. So that part, 50 dates sounds like nothing to me, especially compared to the schedule of being on the road that I'm accustomed to. And if it's being able to do something that I love and being able to put my music out there and perform in front of people and hopefully one of my songs might resonate with one of them, then that's amazing. So I would love to be doing more shows and stuff. Obviously it's been a bit more challenging, I think, since I went back to WWE to tour as much as I was doing prior, because I just went back in 2016. So we were doing a lot more dates prior to me going back. And then I kind of scaled it back just because I wasn't for sure how, I also have a 5-year-old son and he comes first, right? So then I wasn't for sure how both of those schedules were going to be able to mesh and collide until I was on the road enough to know what that landscape was going to look like, right? But since then, I've been able to come back and then be able to do the shows at the Seneca and do open for Big and Rich and do some really cool shows and stuff. So whenever I can play out, we try to play.
And ultimately, are you also looking to write for other artists in the future?
Oh God, I would love to. Because here's the thing is that it's, for me, there's no ego when I'm songwriting. There's no ego behind it of, oh, I have to sing my song. If someone else sings my song and they love it and it resonates with them and they can sing it better than me or they can take it to a different level than me, then by all means, how amazing is that? Because it's still my words on paper and my story, and then they're just being able to deliver it to a massive audience. That's a huge compliment, I think.
Well, being very respectful of your time here, I'll ask my closer, and that's any last words for the kids?
Just follow your dream and follow your heart. I just say, there's going to be, and I say this with everything, you will be told no 100 times before you'll be told yes. But you have to have that dream in your heart and that desire and visualize yourself there and just not take no for an answer, because no is very easy for people to say, because it just is, because they have to know that you want it just as much as you say that you want it, you know what I mean? And a lot of times it just takes a lot of dedication. It's hard work, and but if you believe that you can and you really want it, just go after it and don't let anyone stop you.
Paltrocast.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz, as produced by puregrainaudio.com. Theme song by Steve Schiltz. Audio mixed by Mark Piro. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.